Eric Bischoff here again, telling you about our friends over at SaveWithConrad.com. Now, Conrad's always talking about how they are helping homeowners save money, but did you know that Conrad and his team can also help you become a homeowner? They make the home buying process more enjoyable than, I don't know, making out with Stephanie and Linda. Ouch! But don't take my word for it.
I'm Willie Proctor, and I'm from Martinsburg, West Virginia. I came with Save with Conrad to buy my first home. Is that once I, listened to the podcast, I heard other testimonials and how easy it was. So, and that was the whole process for me here, was wanting for convenience. Oh, it was a pleasure. I mean, it was like working with family. It really was like, being from West Virginia, it's all about family here. And that's what it was like working with Conrad's team. I worked with Larry, Holly, and Francis. And it was just like, I thought I was talking to my aunt or, talking to my dad, it was a great experience. Yeah, this is actually the house I grew up in. So that was kind of the whole thing. And my mom was moving to South Carolina. She got stressed out about what to do with the house, how she was going to sell it, get rid of everything. And I thought, you know what, I didn't want to see the house go. But at the same time, I wanted to make the process easy for me and easy for my mom. And working with Larry and the team, they made it easy for both of us. Hi, this is Willie Proctor, and I just bought my first house with SaveWithConrad.com.
And unlike the dirt sheets, we're not making this up. Check out all the 5-star reviews. Go to SaveWithConrad.com and do it today. You'll be grateful you did.
NMLS number 65084, Equal Housing Lender. Woo!
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Grilling JR with the voice of professional wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm good, buddy. Good to see you. Good to see your face and hear your voice.
Man, I'm excited to be with you today. Of course, you were home in Oklahoma, and every now and again, we have a little computer malfunction. We got one of those today, but have no fear. The iPad is here, and Grilling JR lives to tell the tale. And man, what a tale it's going to be for AEW this weekend. Of course, there's a big collision from Seattle this weekend, and then Wrestle Dream on Sunday. And there's lots of rumor and innuendo. I guess Tony Khan has got a big tease that this will begin a new era of AEW this weekend. And there's lots of whispers about what that could mean. But here's what we know for sure. Bryan Danielson is going to be taking on Zack Sabre Jr. in a dream match that people have been looking forward to for a long, long time. Aussie Open will be challenging FTR. They've got a lot of really, really cool matches on this card. Is there one that stands out among all the others to you?
I think anytime Bryan Danielson's in a featured attraction, it's something to look forward to. So I would say he'll set the bar. He meaning Bryan Danielson. So he's red hot, man. He's red hot, and his match with Zack Sabre Jr. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Should be a textbook. And the whole show's loaded with some really good talents who are looking to turn a head or two. So it's going to be fun in Seattle. I'm going out there on Friday, and I actually got a nonstop flight from Oklahoma City to Seattle.
How about that?
Hard to believe.
Yeah,
so,
that's awesome.
Yeah, on Alaska Airlines. So I've never flown I don't know if I've flown on Alaska Airlines before or not.
That's like Delta. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyway, I'm going out there Friday, and, we're building a little bit of momentum, it looks like, on Collision, which is good. And I'm happy for that. So, let's see how the weekend goes in Seattle.
It's going to be a fun show. I'm excited to see Christian Cage and Darby Allin, Eddie Kingston and Shibata. Certainly excited to see what the next chapter of Adam Cole and MJF is as they team up to take on the Righteous. But maybe the most interesting match to me, besides Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr., is Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland. I've become a huge Swerve fan. I'm excited for this one. It's going to be a great show, man. And how about that 6-man tag team where we've got Chris Jericho and the Golden Elite, which is Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi, taking on Takeshita, Sammy Guevara, and Will Ospreay. Man, this is quite a card. It's a sleeper show. And I know that there's been some chatter online and criticism about how many pay-per-views and how close together JR, I felt like you and I at StarCast the day of All Out, we said this is going to be a sleeper show. It delivered in spades. AEW seemingly always delivers on pay-per-view. I don't expect that will be any different in Wrestle Dream.
I agree. I'm looking forward to the whole weekend. It should be a fun show. And, you build that momentum on the go home show on Collision. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, of course, we all gear up. And, it's interesting. That's about the only time I see Excalibur and is at a pay-per-view. He and Taz and Shivani's at the Collision more often than not. So anyway, it should be a good weekend. I keep looking for holes in the card. And what's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with this card. It's just, let's go get it done. Let's go have some fun with it.
Well, I'm excited to see what happens this weekend. More than just AEW, of course, it's college football season here in America. And man, we had some great shootouts this past weekend. A lot of questions were seemingly answered about Colorado. And now they've got USC this weekend. USC comes in ranked number 8. Texas will be playing Kansas. That's number 3 versus number 24. LSU will be hooking it up with Ole Miss, a big SEC battle there, number 13 versus number 20. And here in my home state of Alabama, a lot of people have Georgia Auburn circled every year. That's going to happen. And then Saturday night, heads up with your Collision, man. It's Alabama versus Mississippi State. It's an interesting football weekend. Did anything surprise you last weekend, or are you really excited about anything this weekend?
Well, I really enjoyed peeking at the Notre Dame game with Ohio State.
Yes.
I picked Ohio State to win that game, and they did it barely. That was a really outstanding competitive ball game. 2 really good teams. So it's just it's a situation where the cream starts rising to the top. Oklahoma plays Iowa State. Oklahoma should win. You never know, obviously, but Oklahoma should win against Iowa State. And then, of course, the following week, I think we play Texas.
And an 11 a.m. game too. I mean, I know that we've seen the Red River shootout early a few times before, but I don't know. Whenever I see number 3 playing number 14, I'm like, how is that not a primetime game? I know you're happy because that means it won't interfere with Collision, but right. It's a little curious to see 2 big time teams like that in an old school rivalry at 11 a.m.
Yeah. Well, the reason for that, in my opinion, is that, the state fairgrounds is surrounded by kind of an undesirable neighborhood.
Okay.
So by having it at 11 a.m., everything is done in the light of day.
Mm-hmm.
Parking, security, everything is important in that regard. So I think that the 11 a.m. didn't surprise me. It doesn't take away from the game, in my opinion. It just makes it safer for those that are attending, because all it is a big drunk. It's just a big, state fair, big beers, turkey legs, all that good stuff. So it's going to be it's always going to be a great atmosphere. And of course it sells out every year, 90 something thousand in the old Cotton Bowl, which has been renovated more than once. So it'll be fun. And I understand the 11 a.m. I don't have a problem with it. It's good for me because I'll be able to watch some of that game before I go to work on Collision on that particular night. So it should be good. I'm looking forward to the whole weekend. I love football season, like you, Conrad. And so let's get it on. Let's go have some fun with this damn thing and enjoy our weekend.
It's going to be a blast. I can't wait. And, of course, man, what a loaded weekend of programming. Collision and Wrestle Dream back to back. Tony's teasing another big announcement. AEW always delivers on pay-per-view. I don't suspect this will be any different. Tickets are on sale now, by the way, if you're in the Seattle area, AEWTIX.com. And you can actually pick up and see where AEW is coming to you next. As I understand it, there's a stop in Memphis with another legendary voice who's going to be making an appearance, Mr. Dave Brown. So
yeah, cool.
Should be really, really cool. Check it out, AEWTIX.com. I also want to mention before we get going with our topic today, I stumbled across a pretty cool interview for adfreeshows.com, Jim. It was with your old pal who you used to work with way back in the day, the artist and costume designer, Tom Fleming. He created some of the more iconic artwork and gear that we all love so much, like Papa Shango and Tatanka and Adam Bomb and Razor Ramon. And I've got a clip for us to take a listen to what's up right now at adfreeshows.com.
Scott Hall, for example, one of the more appreciative wrestlers, when he found out that I designed his costume, came down, and he said, "Hey, you're the guy that is designing my costume." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Hey, let me ask you a favor, brother." He's like, "I've been working way too hard on my legs. Can you do me a favor and turn the pants into trunks?" And I was like, "No problem, man. We'll take the razor blades off the pants, we'll put them on knee pads, and we'll turn them into trunks," which is what we did.
Wow, that's awesome. Catch the Insiders with Tom Fleming, plus enjoy thousands of hours of other exclusive series like The Book with David Crockett, Monday Mailbag with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, Tuesdays with the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan, and so much more. And right now we've got a special offer. You can actually save 20% off your first month by going to jrsave20.com. That's 20% off your first month at jrsave20.com. Jim, this is the first time I had a conversation with somebody who not only drew like what these characters would be wearing, their costume and their look, and, the concept art that we've all seen. We actually got to talk to one of the guys who did that, but then he actually helped make the actual costume. So like all that stuff that Papa Shango used to come out there with, or Adam Bomb's goggles, like that's a pretty cool look, a peek behind the curtain in the wrestling business. I don't think we've ever discussed before.
Yeah, we've had, that was a good area. WWE was far ahead of everybody else at one point in time on costuming. And I think that, we're going to see some cool stuff coming out of AEW, quite honestly. So, but it's a lost art. And, it's got to be durable, and it's got to be flexible, and you got to have some stretch in it. There's a whole science to these costumes. And not only that, but they have to look good. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting scenario. It's good. Interesting feature. I'm sure the fans are going to enjoy that because it's not been utilized before.
Check it out. It's adfreeshows.com. And Jim, our topic today is taking us back 10 years. I can't believe this is real, but it was 10 years ago that you had, yet another WWE quote unquote retirement. And there's always been some rumor and innuendo, and it's been shrouded in mystery, and you're going to sort of set the record straight for us here. But I guess I just want to backtrack a little bit to 2009. It felt like you were sort of winding it down, and maybe it was their choice or it was your choice. We're going to discuss that today, but post 2009, it feels like you're sort of easing out and taking things a little easier in your WWE, getting out of the rat race a little bit. And then this big shift takes place in WWE when Triple H is named Executive Vice President of Talent and Live Events. And now at that point, John Laurinaitis is essentially going to be answering to Hunter. And that happens in 2011. And we've talked a little bit about how, your relationship with Ace evolved, if you will. But what was going on behind the scenes there in 2009 and then in 2011 when this changes and seemingly Triple H moves up? It feels like that usually the guy in your old seat, that talent relations seat, he'd be dealing directly with Vince. There's a new buffer in there in Triple H. What'd you think of that?
Well, getting Triple H involved, I think it's been an asset for the company. He's got great feel for the game, no pun intended. The more you can get Triple H involved on a decision-making scenario, the better off you are. He's just got a great feel for the business. He's a student of the game, literally more than just a nickname. So I always commended the company there for getting him more involved, him meaning Triple H. So I didn't see a bad thing about it. My situation was just very arduous. It was just, it was no secret that Vince wanted to go younger, different look, different sound, and that it would eliminate JR. So, I guess if you're a performer or a talent, you got to expect this is going to happen at some point in time. It's just, I thought sometimes it was handled a little coarsely, and could have been handled a lot better, in my opinion. Of course, that's me being biased because it's about me. So, and I never looked at it as a situation, Conrad, where my work had fallen off the cliff and I just didn't have it anymore. I never thought that at all. So, we can talk about it, but it's kind of a hard, there's a lot of conflicting mindsets. What's going on? Why is all this happening? And the communication wasn't great. So, in any event, it was tough sledding for JR at different points during this era.
What was your relationship with Hunter like? I mean, I know obviously you guys, or I shouldn't say obviously, but I imagine that you guys had a good relationship when you were running talent relations, and he was one of the lead horses. But behind the scenes, as he becomes, I don't know, a more business person rather than just an in-ring performer, not to diminish what he did in the ring, you know what I mean. Did your relationship change with him at all as he sort of rose to power behind the scenes? Not really.
We always communicated well. We had a good, honest, upfront relationship. And I have great respect for Triple H then, now, and forever, as the expression goes. So, but we always got along well. We have a lot in common. We both love wrestling.
Right.
And we both love pro wrestling. So but I never had a real bad, I don't remember having too many bad days with Triple H. We communicated well. We were honest with each other. And, and I understood too that he was kind of hamstrung on what he could do in my regard, because the influencer was Vince, and Vince wanted a change, and he was hell bent on getting his change at that announce position.
Well, let's talk about talent relations, because as I understand it, eventually after you've, sort of been sitting on the sidelines, they do make an offer or an overture. Hey, we've got a job for you back in talent relations. And as somebody who was reading about what's going on in the Torture and the Observer and things like that, I was kind of surprised it took so long for them to approach you with some sort of an advisory role. What do you remember about how all that went down?
Well, I think Vince wanted a complete changeover, and that would include John Laurinaitis doing the payroll. Payroll is such a key element to what we do because of the discretionary nature of the payroll. So, but Vince found out that I was still doing the payroll, and he didn't like it, and he got angry at John. I think he probably got angry at me. I don't know. It was just a scenario where I was just trying to help John out, and he was in a little bit over his head as far as workload. Not that he couldn't do it, but so finally we worked our way out of JR doing the payroll every week, and I got some time back with my hands to enjoy life a little bit more. So, but there's a lot of change. It seemed like it just kept evolving. The changes kept evolving, and it can be unsettling, Conrad, quite frankly.
Let's talk about NXT here for a minute, because NXT really comes to creation and becomes a thing in 2010. This is on the heels of, the failed experiment of relaunching ECW. As a reminder, the company still has FCW operating, at least for a couple of years, and they shut that down in 2012. And here comes the new Performance Center. It's in a whole new world.
Yeah.
Did Hunter lay out to you, or did anyone lay out to you the vision of NXT, and what did you think of that as a concept?
I like the concept a lot, and Hunter and I did talk about it. We both are big proponents of the Performance Center, and getting more ring time for these talents, and getting them involved, getting them in the ring, getting good teaching and coaching, coach them up, add some discipline, adds, just a whole scenario, a whole feel. And, I think NXT is one of the best things that WWE has done, because where are you going to get talents that are trained? You know, all the big news about Jade Cargill. Well, Jade Cargill needs to hang in that performance center for an extended length of time to help improve her game. And not that she's not a good talent, she is, but she can get a lot better with more in-ring time and coaching. And they've got great coaching in NXT and then in that whole performance center area. You know, a lot of guys have really contributed well, and they've helped make the damn thing better. So I'm a big proponent, and Triple H obviously was the driving force behind getting the performance center up and running and producing talent. That's the whole bottom line, is that how many stars did you produce?
Right.
And that's the bottom line of that deal. And they produced a lot of stars.
Well, we talked about it at the top of the show. Now's a good time as any to remind you that football season is back, and you know what that means: touchdown dances, Sunday tailgates, and epic fantasy showdowns. But fellas, let's not forget the real MVP of the season. It's the all new Beard Hedger Pro Kit from Manscaped, your ultimate luxury beard grooming experience. This kit is your secret weapon for staying sharp on and off the field. Don't fumble the opportunity. Head to manscaped.com and elevate your grooming game with the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. Join the 9 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. You heard that right. 9 million men, or that's 109 MetLife stadiums. Go right now to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with the code Jim Ross. And I got to tell you, man, we've all had we'll call it a CSI Oklahoma moment when we were trimming our beard and trying to take care there. You get a little grooming accident, and sometimes they're bloodier than others. And well, I don't mind sharing. Starcast weekend, they had me do an interview for WGN, and I had my time zone messed up. And what do you know? I wound up shaving my beard too low on one side. It was embarrassing. And I did it in a hurry because I didn't have the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. I didn't have the right tools on and off the field. Well, I've remedied that. The Beard Hedger Pro Kit is now a grooming powerhouse built for both precision and style, just like your favorite quarterback. The kit tackles beard touch-ups effortlessly, ensuring that you're always prepped for the next play. Plus, it has a compact design for easy portability. Check this out. This cordless, that's right, cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 different hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. So you don't need a messy junk drawer full of extra add-ons. That's right, face grooming doesn't need to be hard. Get 20 different beard lengths with just one guard. It's also waterproof, so you can shave in the shower and avoid all that hair in the sink. And how about the titanium coated T-blade, man? It's tough on hair, but smooth on your face, leading to single stroke efficiency, which is how Tony Schiavone has 38 children. Remember, the Beard Hedger Pro Kit is your go-to teammate for maintaining a sharp and polished beard, whether you're on the field, in the office, or anywhere in between. Grab yours today and experience the game-changing difference. After grooming your facial turf, show it some love with the Manscaped liquid formulations. You got the beard shampoo, the beard conditioner, the beard oil, the beard balm. They're all keys to feeling victorious and taking your beard game to the next level. Get 20% off plus free shipping with our code Jim Ross at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code Jim Ross at manscaped.com. One more time, that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com when you use our code Jim Ross. Your grass is not artificial. Keep it shaved with Manscaped.
Good stuff, man. Manscaped, great loyal sponsor. Fans love it. They're selling the hell out of those kits, the sets. It's just great. So, and now this offer here, 20% off, free shipping. It's hard to beat. So give it a shot, folks. You'll be glad that you did, and so will your significant other.
It's like a sore Peter. Hard to beat. Check it out. Manscaped.com. Use the promo code Jim Ross. Get yourself 20% off plus free shipping. So listen, we're talking about NXT, and of course, these days, I think we all sort of associate NXT, for better or worse, with Triple H. But once upon a time, boy, one of the real masterminds down there, one of the more influential people who were in that building teaching his quote-unquote kids, was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. What'd you think of the job that Dusty was doing with NXT?
Oh, he was great. He was so influential. You know, he had that just that buzz around him. You know, Dusty was just one of the biggest stars in the history of wrestling.
Yes.
And a lot of those kids grew up in some form or fashion sampling his work. So Dusty was a very influential and important cog in the talent development. And, I've talked to a lot of those kids since Dusty passed away, and Dusty was certainly influential to them. They loved him. He took them, like you said, he really believed that theory that they were his kids. And there's nothing more, I think, wonderful than that. He cared about everybody.
Yes.
And he loved those kids. So Dusty's role in talent development can't be understated. It was important and a big deal.
Something I think a lot of folks may have forgotten is that you actually debut with NXT here. You make your on-screen debut on June 20th, 2012. This is from the new NXT from Full Sail. Here you're going to be working with Byron Saxton and William Regal. And I'm sure you were excited to be on the headsets, and now wasn't then, but now it's your home state of Florida, and working with two guys that, maybe one is trying to make a name for himself and one you're very familiar with for a long, long time. Were you surprised that they gave you the opportunity to put on the headsets for NXT? And what was it like working with Byron and Mr. Regal?
Well, I was a little surprised that I got another dance. The music was playing, and here I go. So, of course, my history with William Regal goes back years, and I've always had great respect for him. Still do. Byron was young. He added a lot of diversity with his ethnicity, and a smart kid, good kid. So I had no issues with it at all. It was like a new chapter in a new book, and I was anxious to read it.
Well, we were excited to have you back on the headsets. When you're first down there and spending time with NXT and that roster, was there anybody or anything that really stood out to you? I mean, at this point in your career, you've just seen decades and decades and decades of talent, but sometimes it when you see it. And we hear that a lot where we don't really know how to define it, but we know it when we see it. Did you see anybody down there that really impressed you and you thought, man, it is dripping off that person?
Yeah, absolutely. There were a lot of really good talents that were evolving and developing. I enjoyed what I was most impressed with, Conrad, was their work ethic. These kids were hungry, and they wanted to become stars. They wanted to increase their ability to earn a better living. They wanted a chance to go to the big dance and play, get in the game and play. So I love the work ethic, still do, in pro wrestling. That's one of my favorite things, to see talents. We talked about Darby Allin being the homegrown superstar, one of them in AEW, and he is. But there were several Darby Allin-like people in NXT that just turned my head, impressed me. So, but it all starts with how hard they were working and how dedicated they were to their craft and getting better at it.
Well, we can't talk about 2012 without talking about how your world changed quite a bit. September 10th, 2012, your old pal Jerry Lawler has a heart attack live on Monday Night Raw. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be tasked with returning to Monday Night Raw until Lawler could recover. Were you watching the program when that happened? What can you tell us about seeing your old pal in a really rough spot on live TV?
Yes, I was watching and scared to death. I remember so vividly, Jan, my late wife, was just beside herself. She couldn't believe she was trying to figure out if it was a TV angle.
Right.
Storyline driven. And I said, I don't think so, honey. I think this is a real deal. And it was the real deal, unfortunately. But fortunately, Jerry survived it. And I just saw a picture of him the other day. He swore that he'd never have gray. He's not a gray guy. So he's got a gray beard.
Yep.
And he's feeling better. He and I are still thinking about doing a series of autograph signings when he gets a little bit better. And, right now his voice is still a little bit weak, but it's getting stronger. And so JR the King will be back out there at some point in time, I hope. And, it's just so much fun to spend time with him, and we laugh at our stories and laugh at our jokes and all that stuff. So he's a character, and I love being around him. I love him. So, and hopefully we'll get some more mileage out of his body and mine going forward, and can continue to enjoy our relationship.
It's a really weird circumstance because you're seeing one of your best friends you've ever had, on TV in a really, really tough spot. And as I understand it, that same day your phone rings and it's Kevin Dunn talking to you about Monday Night Raw. That's a weird set of circumstances, is it not?
Yeah, it's a little strange. It kind of came from out of nowhere, but the reason it came was because of Jerry.
Right.
And, just for me to be able to sit in his chair or a chair at ringside, was just really special. And, I think it was a good call. I appreciate Kevin Dunn's confidence in me, and he had a lot of influence with Vince. I'm sure he still does to some degree. So, I had no issues with it. I was very excited that A, Jerry was alive, and B, they were giving me an opportunity to sit in his spot for a while. And it didn't last long, but I was happy to do it, and I loved the opportunity to get back in the game. You're a ball player. You want to go play ball, Conrad. God dang. It's just not that. It's not rocket science. It's just, you just got to go. You want to go play. And I didn't like the circumstances that got me back in the game, obviously, but I'm glad that the confidence in my work still allowed me to get back in the game. And that was really important for me at that point.
Just a couple of weeks after that, as luck would have it, WWE is in Oklahoma City, in fact, and they're going to call it JR Appreciation Night. And respectfully, in years past, that meant, well, somebody's going to throw you in a dump truck or break a cinder block over your head, or they're going to kick the shit out of you. Something bad's going to happen. And you were involved in a segment with Punk and Ryback, but that didn't happen. You didn't get the shit kicked out of you in your hometown. And instead, after the show, Vince McMahon comes out and he says something like, tonight is good old JR Appreciation Night. And I can tell you, no one appreciates JR more than I do. JR was born and reared here in Oklahoma in the tradition of Oklahoma and Americana, values of hard work and dedication. James Brown, the late James Brown, used to state that he was the hardest working man in show business, but he never met Jim Ross. When it comes to dedication, most of you know JR as good old JR from behind the announce position. He certainly did that better than anyone else in the history of our business, including Gordon Soley. JR, in terms of his work ethic, this is a true story. During a pay-per-view, a 3-hour pay-per-view, JR passed a kidney stone. He would not leave his post. He passed a kidney stone and kept on commentating. As far as being on the other side, many of you don't know JR's executive skills. As far as dedication is concerned, there's probably no one any more dedicated in the history of our business than JR is to WWE. Whether it was talent, recruitment, development, management, or whether it was the televised production and presentation, whether it was the untold hours and hours he would sit at his desk in the office or at home 24 hours a day trying to conjure up matches that would be enticing for you to want to see. JR would do anything for this business, and a testament to that would be something that in this ring here, this arena, some time ago, when JR joined a certain special club that we won't mention. Again, JR would do anything for the business. When you think of JR, you have to think of legacy and what he continues to leave. When you think of this fact that the product now is at least in 30 different languages and at least 150 different countries all over the world, JR is a household name worldwide. You'd have to wonder, however, some of JR's terms translate. How would slobber knocker translate in Chinese? Or stomp a mud hole and walk it dry maybe in German? Or how about some of the other terms JR said so many times, like business is about to pick up It always picked up when he was right here or behind the scenes contributing to WWE. There's many people who could say many wonderful things and accolades about Jim Ross. I would just like to state that Jim Ross is an American icon and my friend. Thank you, Jim. Wow. How about that?
Yeah. Who'd have thought that was coming down the pike, right?
This is totally flipping the script from what we're used to in Oklahoma. Normally you're going to bleed or kiss somebody's ass. Here comes a cinder block. None of that happened. It was fantastic, man. Were you surprised by this? Did this catch you off guard? What did Jan think?
She cried. She was very emotional. She, kept saying, "I knew he loved you, JR. I knew." Well, sometimes he didn't give me that indication that he loved me. But nonetheless, it was a big surprise and very much appreciated, to say the very least. And to do it there in Oklahoma City was a big deal. And so, yeah, Vince, and that was all off the cuff. He didn't have the script. Nobody wrote his lines down. He just came fired from the hip, and that's where we were. So I was very, very honored that he had those words to say, and I don't know how he could have done it any better.
Was this, I know it caught you off guard, it wasn't planned, but had you heard during your time together? I mean, we've all seen how he would at times pick on you on air, but have you had like heart to hearts like this where you saw this Vince before, or is he revealing that to you for the first time?
No, I knew that he cared, and I knew that he was sincere. But I just shouldered so much. I took so much off his plate that, and I think sometimes I don't want to say he took it for granted, but it was just really a cool thing, to be honest with you, Conrad. We had a lot of talks, 101s, and some were very stern, some were very real, some were funny, some were poignant, but he trusted me, and he trusted me with his most valuable asset, the talent.
Yeah.
So, so I was very, very much grateful for all my opportunities in WWE, and as the still ongoing now in AEW. I've been a very lucky guy in this business. Here's no fat Okie with a Southern accent and can't smile because of 3 bouts of facial paralysis. Why does JR never smile? He's never happy. I'm happy all the time. I just can't smile. It's still a paralysis around my mouth is what it is. So, but Vince was always, I always really knew where I stood with him. Sometimes the last guy to talk to him could sway him in a different way. But for me, he was just, he was a man's man. And I think that's what he liked about me. When we were alone, and just the two of us in a meeting, the meetings were very succinct. They were real. And I just had believe it or not, I had a great time working with Vince, working for him, learning under him, and all those things. But did we always get along? No. We didn't have the same basic philosophy sometimes. He liked sizzle. I like steak. That don't mean either one of us is wrong. It just meant that we like different things. And I think that came into play in a good way, more often than not. But, he struck onto a chord where the audience gave a damn about JR. And a lot of that was because of Vince and Vince's actions, whether me kissing his ass or getting punched out by somebody, or like he alluded to Bischoff in the cinder block or whatever. It was just, we had a great relationship in that regard that nobody's going to really believe how good it was. But he used me as a I don't know, what's the word, muse or something? He was just really good at picking things out that the audience was going to respond to. And one of those things was having some fun with good old JR's TV personality.
Well, it has to be one of the highlights of your return here to Monday Night Raw. But of course, I'm sure the biggest highlight for you was welcoming back Jerry the King Lawler. Thankfully, he pulled the nose up. He's taking his rightful place back on Monday Night Raw. I'm sure that was a big deal for you and him. And you wound up being brought back for the 20th anniversary episode of Monday Night Raw. That's January of 2013. And you get to call the main event where John Cena would defeat Dolph Ziggler in a steel cage match. We can't mention Dolph Ziggler without at least bringing his new circumstance up. He is available, as I understand it, sooner rather than later. He's been released from his WWE contract, and he has been seemingly a lifer there. And it's probably a testament to his in-ring talent that he was able to overcome a name like Dolph Ziggler and enjoy any success. What a terrible name. But boy, within the bell rang, and it didn't matter what you called him. He was money. What do you think is next for Dolph Ziggler?
I don't know that he's permanently going to be gone from WWE.
Okay.
I think once the dust settles and you start thinking about roles that he could fulfill, and there are many, not just wrestling, but I was listening to somebody, maybe it was on Busted Open or something the other day, that they were talking about Dolph, and he might be in line for a role much like Adam Pearce is on Raw. And if that's the case, then he'll do a great job.
Oh, yeah.
Ziggler's a star, and you don't just cast stars to the side. So I'm predicting that Ziggler gets back in the game at WWE in some role, but a different role than wrestling. So he's a great talker. He's got a great appearance. He looks good. A smart kid. Always been very respectful to me. I remember when Terry Briscoe was recruiting him. He was a really good amateur, and that's kind of one of the things we were looking for, was strong amateurs who had good work ethic and all that good stuff. So he's a talent, and I don't think the talents like him come along that often. So therefore, and knowing how smart Triple H is, they may find a role for Dolph that's just perfect for him at this point in time in his career. So good guy. Somebody, he could help a lot of companies, no doubt about it. And I know he has other interests too. He enjoys doing his comedy shows and things of that nature. So I'm a big Dolph Ziggler fan, and I hope that he has nothing but success in his career. He deserves it. He's earned it. And I'm just excited to see where he's headed next.
Me too, man. We absolutely love us some Dolph Ziggler on this program. I mean, he's been a fabulous talking head over the years on the different news programs. As you said, he has the skill set to be a stand-up comedian, and he's been honing his craft at that for a long time. And he's a phenomenal athlete. By the way, people forget that legit amateur wrestler, as you said, Jerry Briscoe recruited him, just a real badass, and he could make everybody look like $1 million in the ring.
That's it.
He can write his own ticket, man. So I'm excited to see what's next for him, but we know what's next for you back in this era was you're going to be involved in certain NXT shows, and you're actually going to be involved in the rebranding of Jack Swagger. We're going to pair him with Zeb Coulter, who we know as Dutch Mantell, and you even take part of a segment with them in Oklahoma City. And listen, I understand that every now and again we got to change things up, but you certainly had a lot of respect for the real life Jake Hager and what he accomplished in the amateur ranks. What did you think of this rebrand of Jake Hager and this whole new character?
I was all for doing anything I could do personally to help this kid advance, to keep moving up the ladder. He had he had unlimited potential. He's in AEW now. I think he can be used even more effectively. It's just to get settled back into a scenario, a storyline, or whatever you want to say. I think he's been in a team environment maybe a little bit longer than he needs to. I'd like to see how Jake Hager would do on his own, personally. But I'm biased. I'm very biased. It's in this house where I'm sitting now here in Norman is where he and I and Dusty Dvorak who played football at OU and drafted by the Bears as a D lineman. They were here eating Jan's cooking, and that's just one of the recruiting tools he used. Food is a good negotiator. So he was, and we talked about wrestling, and he wasn't a big pro wrestling fan, but he was in a situation where he's graduating. Now what do? And what he did was we got him to, I talked to Laurinaitis and I said, this kid's got something. He's big. He's smart. He's an athlete. He's tough, mentally and physically tough. He deserves an opportunity because he may end up being really good. And he ended up being the world champion. So I'm a big Jack Swagger fan. I think Tony Khan's got him a great talent there. It's just a matter of what direction on the road that he turns and where he's headed. But I'm a big fan of his work. And I think we have not seen the best in AEW of Jake, quite frankly. I think he's got a great future. Still, he's young, still young. He's healthy. He's not worn out. He's not beat up. So I love the kid. He's just a good Oklahoma boy that is I can't get enough of Jack Swagger.
Well, and you and I can't get enough.
I can't get enough of Jake Hager either.
There you go. There you go. And we can't get enough of saving money. And we're doing that thanks to our friends at Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. You see, most folks think they're spending $80 a month on their subscriptions, but in reality, the number's closer to 200. And when you're signed up for so many things, like streaming services where you only really wanted to watch one show, or maybe it was a free trial for delivery you never used, well, it's easy to lose track of what all you're paying for. But with Rocket Money, you can easily cancel the ones you don't want with just the press of a button. No more long hold times or annoying emails with customer service. Rocket Money does all the hard work for you. Hey, and how about this? Rocket Money can even help negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you got to do is take a picture of your bill and Rocket Money will take care of the rest. Rocket Money also lets you monitor all your expenses in one place. They'll recommend custom budgets based on your past spending. They'll even send you notifications when you've reached your spending limits. With over 3 million users and counting, Rocket Money customers have saved an average of $720 a year. And I got to tell you, I didn't think that this would work for me. It did. Man, my wife and I both signed up for Hulu, but we watch TV together. We don't need 2 separate Hulu accounts. We also were able to trim down some of Megan's fitness programs that she signed up for and just forgot about. And I signed up for DAZN for one fight, but they kept billing me every month. I only watched the one fight one time. Stop throwing your money away. Keep more of your own money. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and manage your money the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/JR. That's rocketmoney.com/JR. rocketmoney.com/JR.
Get you some, folks. This is such a great idea. It's one of those classic ideas that you and I talked about here and chuckled about, Conrad, because that's what fat guys do. We chuckle. That I just, why the hell didn't I think of this?
That's right.
It's a great concept. I mean, it's so easy to pull off and to make work for you and save yourself some money. It's just a great tool. So rocketmoney.com/JR. Help yourself out. You're wasting money.
Yes.
You're throwing it away.
Yes.
So unless you're big on throwing money away, then you might want to consider this, because this is the money. This is how you're going to get some money back. It's a smart concept. And it's like I said, why didn't I think of that? That's just a great idea, Connie. Great. I'm glad. And we're glad there's helping sponsor our program too. It means a lot for all of our advertisers. But the new ones, and somewhat new, like Rocket Money, just couldn't ask for a better sponsor.
Totally agree. It's going to save you some cash. Check it out for yourself. You'll be glad you did. It's rocketmoney.com/JR. So, Jim, let's talk about WrestleMania 29. It's a big show, MetLife Stadium. We got John Cena and The Rock in the main event. And it's a little unusual. You're not on the call. Now, you're at the event. You're in the skybox doing the pregame show and the postgame show. We can be honest here on the program. Were you thrilled with that assignment? Did that hurt your feelings a little bit? Were you feeling left out, or were you excited to be a part of the show? However,
no, I was excited to be in the game. You know, it's a new role. Didn't have a problem with it. Just you can't. Well, I didn't want to play defensive end. I wanted to play linebacker or whatever. I wanted to play on the team. I wanted to get in the game, and that did that. And I had fun. Dusty was fun to work with, and the event was spectacular. So I had no problem with it whatsoever. I just wanted to get in the game, and that's what ball players do. They want to play, and all I wanted to do is get in the game and play.
It's interesting what happens next, because they move you off of NXT TV in favor of Tom Phillips. We know he had a cup of coffee in the WWE, and he's now sort of the voice of Impact. I'm sure you had a chance to work with Tom, whether it was on screen or certainly behind the scenes. What'd you think of Tom and his work as a young broadcaster here for NXT?
Good kid, Conrad. He had, I think we were trying out, I think there were two guys. I can't remember the other guy's name. I guess that's kind of his legacy. But Tom was of the two, was by far the better of the two potential talents. But a nice kid, student. He wanted to learn. He wanted to, and hey, look, I hear my phraseologies used on NXT every week. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's just, I'm kind of proud that it happens. But Tom was he's a student of the game. He wanted to learn a bit more. I don't know what happened there. He didn't push the right button. I don't know. I thought he did a real good job, and I don't listen to him as much on TNA or Impact rather as I have. But he's a good talent, and he was always reliable. You know how big I am on reliability.
Oh yeah.
He was always reliable and had a good look, and he wanted to be a star. And that's what you got to have. You got to have the desire to be really, really good in an area, an arena that's maybe not as friendly to all talents as we would like in a perfect world. But Tom was good, and I'm glad that he still got him the job, and he's still working. He should get nothing but better. Oh, he can't find his comfort zone because he's in a brand that might not be as popular as other brands. But I'm happy for him. He's a good kid, good dude, and I wish you nothing but the best. He's a good boy.
Well, now it's time for us to have the interesting part of the conversation, I suppose, because SummerSlam that year was in Los Angeles. Now, remember, folks, this is 2013. As a reminder, right before WrestleMania that year, unfortunately, Ric Flair lost his youngest son, Reed Flair, to an overdose. And that's not the natural order of things. Parents are not supposed to bury their children. That's not the way that's supposed to go. And I don't think it's a shocker that Ric Flair has always enjoyed a cocktail or two. And maybe in this era, he was enjoying a little too much. And supposedly that spilled over during a SummerSlam panel for 2K. There was a WWE panel in partnership in conjunction with 2K, the video game company. And Meltzer had this to say: there was a major issue the night before SummerSlam in Los Angeles in what was billed as a WrestleMania Symposium on August 17th, moderated by Jim Ross and featuring, among others, Ric Flair, Steve Austin, Mick Foley, Paul Heyman, Dolph Ziggler, and Rey Mysterio. Everything seemed fine early. Ross was at times making fun of the script he was given for the introduction of the different wrestlers, saying things like he would never use those words and doing some impromptu comedy. He was asking questions of the panelists and hadn't asked Flair anything. Foley, who was sitting next to Flair, interrupted and said how he hadn't asked Flair. Ross, along with Austin, said they were building to it and used the wrestling term about a hot tag. Austin was joking that Ross may not have had the best peripheral vision of Ric Flair because he was the furthest from Ross, but he wasn't going to not be aware Flair was in the room, while Foley said he was just trying to do the right thing. And I guess we should just stop right there for a moment. Let me ask, how does this symposium thing come together? Is this a 2K initiative and then WWE asks you to appear? Does 2K reach out to you directly? How does that whole thing come together?
Well, my friend Bryce Yang, who still works with 2K, approached me about doing this symposium. And look, again, you got a hot tag, get back in the game. And so I was excited about the opportunity and the chance to perform in a little different arena, a little different venue than normal. So, but 2K initiated it. WWE signed off on it, and off we went. So that's kind of how that worked out. I was happy. 2K's been really good to me. I made a lot of money with 2K. You know, I was a playable character in one of the video games, maybe more. So I had a great relationship with 2K, and it was one of my healthiest and coolest relationships I had as a talent. So, but I didn't have a clue it was going to end up like it did, and I had some misspoken words. I should have laid back, and you know, I was having a little too much fun, and it just didn't work out well. You know, I wasn't drunk. I had a cocktail, but so did everybody else, and I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent, but it's what it was. But you know, somebody's got to do the honors. Somebody's got to put the guys over, and I did my best and sacrificed, so to speak. But it was not a good day at the office. It really wasn't a good day at the office whatsoever, and I feel badly about that. I feel badly about my performance. I feel badly about my how I represented myself and the company. It was my fault. Trying to be entertaining and so forth, and because some of the material that had been written by non-wrestling people was not good, and I, of course, instead of just leaving it alone, I had to embellish it, I had to embellish the fallacies. So it was tough, but I take full responsibility for my performance on that situation, and you know, I'm not monitoring how much somebody's drinking, and there was a lot of drinking going on. So it was just not. It wasn't a good day. It wasn't a good day. And it could have been, and it should have been, but it wasn't.
Meltzer recaps the whole thing in the Observer. He says Flair started out fine, and Ross saying how Flair was already a first ballot Hall of Famer before he had ever done a WrestleMania. And Flair talked about how he had problems in WCW. He wanted to leave numerous times, but felt loyalty as NWA champion and stayed. He noted that he wrestled Randy Savage and that Savage and Elizabeth were having problems, and he had Kurt in his corner. And he said he thinks about it all the time, how he's only one match left. There's only one person left from that match who's still alive. And he starts talking about his last WWE match with Shawn Michaels, and Ross tried to stop him, as apparently he was planning on asking about that later. And Meltzer would say once Flair started talking, he didn't stop and took over the show. Flair told the story, putting over the WWE, saying that when his son Reed died, he took off his Hall of Fame ring, the one he got when he retired, and he put it on Reed's finger before they closed the casket. I guess not to play favorites, he took his second ring at that point, the one he got for being a part of the Four Horsemen, and gave it to his son David. Apparently, when WWE found out about this, they had another ring made for him, and they engraved Reed's name on the ring, and he used that to say there's no company like WWE. And the thing would continue, but clearly you could tell Rick was in his feelings. I mean, as he should be. This is, you know, a devastating thing, a real tragedy that no one could really prepare for. And it is a pretty amazing story, what WWE did for Reed. Had he told you that story privately, or did you hear it for the first time like a lot of us did at that symposium?
No, I was aware. I was aware of Conrad. And it was just another example. You know, Triple H is such a Ric Flair fan and proponent of Britain H. So nothing really surprised me as far as how Rick was treated. He was treated very professionally, very lovingly, and I credit Triple H primarily for that because of the relationship that those two had. Because, you know, Rick had been a major influence in the professional life of Triple H for many, many years. Nothing surprised me in that respect, but it was a great gesture by WWE to, you know, to recognize Rick in this special way. And, I think sometimes we forget, these, and I don't understand this either, really, but sometimes it's hard to evaluate and to describe these Hall of Fame rings. I got one, 2007, and I wear it on TV every week. I wear it when I'm out and about. I'm proud of it and happy to have it. So, but nothing surprised me there with Nate. He deserves some happiness. There's no doubt about that. After the tragedy and the heartbreak that he had just suffered.
Yes.
He needed something. And the WWE was there to step in and make sure that he was acknowledged me. And they did very well.
Well, we get to another part of this symposium where Paul Heyman is discussing matches he would have liked to have seen at WrestleMania. And he wanted to see Flair versus Hogan at WrestleMania 8. Flair picks up the mic and starts mocking the decision to go with Hogan and Sid and Flair and Savage, and says Hogan and Flair, man, hey, I would have went down to a leg drop. And at this point, realizing that even though Heyman was speaking and Rick had taken over, you sort of tongue in cheek point out that this segment is sponsored by Grey Goose. In hindsight, that was probably not the right phrasing to use there.
Hindsight, it's wrong. It was an attempt to be funny.
Yes.
And sometimes when we non-professional comedians try to be funny, it can blow up in our face. And that one kind of blew up in my face. It was ill-fated. Just didn't work. So it continues with the bad night for JR. And that's not anybody's fault but JR's. So, but I was just trying to salvage what I perceived was a runaway train. And maybe I overreacted in that respect, quite frankly.
Flair's going to continue to talk here, and he's talking about John Cena and his drinking ability. And then somehow he starts talking about his matches with Foley and TNA. And at this point, Paul Heyman, again, trying to bring some levity to the mood, stands up, walks over to you at the podium and rips up the script you had right in front of you. And the end of this would feature a little bit of a back and forth with Bryan Danielson trying to save you. And of course, Bryan is in the push of a lifetime. The yes movement is really taking over. He's going to do the cash in. People are going to be, or Orton's going to do the cash in, but he's in the main events. He's moved up. He's the rising star on the stage. And he modestly says something like, I honestly don't think I belong up here. And now Rick is trying to be funny. And he says, 41 years of wrestling Brody and Blackjack. Can you imagine how I feel about you being up here? And finally, Flair talks about the night in Charleston where you two were quote unquote so drunk and met Jan, and how she needed lens crafters because somehow she chose you over the Nature Boy. And you closed the show by saying this may be it for your broadcaster career, because you can't imagine you'd ever be asked to host this thing again. You had to know this thing is off the train is off the tracks. This has not gone well, but I have to admit it was entertaining. What was your mindset and mentality when the music plays, you're walking off stage? What's going through your head before you bump into who you're going to bump into?
Boy, we really shit the bed. That's what I was thinking. We really took a big old dump on the sheets. We weren't briefed like you would expected. You would expect us to be. We weren't produced. I don't know if that was just because nobody wanted that task or what. I don't know. But we didn't seem like we stepped on the stage well prepared. And then with my performance, trying to get some chicken salad out of this thing, it just didn't work. It just didn't work. And I got in trouble over it. Another time, JR got reprimanded, and I deserved it. So what the hell? What are you going to do?
Well, let's talk about what's next. It's been said that the 2K people had no problem and enjoyed it and liked it.
Yeah.
But Stephanie McMahon comes out to apologize to the audience, and supposedly she and other folks in WWE are livid. When do you first hear that she and Vince are pissed, or do they make that known right away?
Right away. Yeah, I knew. They didn't hold back the information. It was not good. And it's all about communicating, quite frankly. And I didn't communicate well that night. I didn't perform well that night, but we weren't prepared for success. We were prepared to have a runaway train, and that's kind of what it was. Nobody really knew what they're supposed to say or not supposed to say. So it was, and I should have used this more common sense. I should have laid back more. But I'm just trying to pull some success out of this, what I perceive to be a sinking ship. And at least that was the idea. And as we all know, ideas are not always what they seem to be.
Did you know that Flair was pulled from SummerSlam because of this? I mean, allegedly they had something planned for him to do on the show the next day, but I guess that's off the table after this. And it's even been written that he lost his contract with WWE because of this. I know you take to Twitter right away saying you retired, and when you tire, the effects of Bell's palsy act up.
All right.
Are you trying to save face for WWE? Are you trying to get in front of any controversy yourself? What's going on in the hours that pass after that?
Just telling the truth. You know, facial paralysis is a unique animal to deal with. And as I mentioned, if I'm drinking or if I'm fatigued, it affects my speech. I slur a little bit. And it's not always because, well, he was drunk. You know, oh, he was drinking a lot. Well, that's not true. But what I kept going down the wrong road. I should have made a turn on this interstate of chaos, but I didn't. So I don't know. It was a hard day, and nothing really good came. I mean, the sponsor, 2K, was very happy.
Yes.
And that meant a lot to me. They were very happy. And so I appreciated at least them speaking out. But the hay was in the barn. It was already too late. And I got what I deserved, quite frankly. So you got to be man enough to accept the accolades, and you got to be man enough to accept the non-accolades. And there were plenty of those to go around, it seemed like.
Well, listen, I want to talk about quote unquote what you got, but before I do want to ask, you know, when fans were out there saying, oh, they were all drunk, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, like, what was the scene before the symposium? I assume you guys were hanging out at the hotel bar and enjoying a few cocktails. Did you know as you made your way over there that anybody in the crew had too much to drink, whether it was you or Rick or anyone else?
Not really. They had a green room there for all the talents, and so it was just it was almost a fait accompli. You almost knew something bad was going to happen with that much booze being passed around and all that. And not everybody was drinking. You know, I don't know that Bryan Danielson ever had a drop of anything, for example. That's why he's such an amazing human being. And he's probably the most valuable player at AEW right now, at least in my opinion. Not that we don't have other MVPs, but he's really taken a huge role, a leadership role. And that's why I'm so blessed to be on Collision, because that's Bryan Danielson's show.
Right.
And it's great because he brings maturity and ideas, a spirit of core. He's very, very important to everything that we do on Saturday night, especially. So, and Bryan is really one of the best. I don't know who's a better worker in the world than Bryan Danielson right now.
Nobody.
You know, so it's we're lucky to have him, and I love him to be around. We talk it every Saturday. We talk about this or that or this idea or that idea. It's just it's refreshing. It's a breath of fresh air, to say the least. So, but I think we had too much booze, and it was not, and it just kept being poured. So it was bound to end bad, and predictably it did.
I'm not trying to have you pass the buck here, but your connection blinked for a second there. Or did you say that there was alcohol provided in the green room?
Yeah, lots
Okay.
of it.
Okay.
Lots of it, and good alcohol.
Sure.
I'm not talking about
Well,
potato. I'm talking about the good quality stuff.
sure.
So it just wrong. We didn't need that much booze, and somewhere along the way, some decision makers should have said, "We're going to take the booze away for right now."
Yes.
These guys, if you guys want to drink, we'll drink when this performance or this presentation is concluded. We didn't. That didn't happen. And like little kids, it reminded me of that frigging plane ride from hell. Nobody could get enough. Everybody had to have another drink, one more drink, or I'll have another this, another that. It was just bad judgment all the way around. And it should have been managed better. And those of us in roles that could affect how it was perceived should have done a better, more mature professional job of our role.
Well, from the outside looking in, it felt like they had a hard on for you, JR. And I don't know that to be true, but I can say if you're looking for a hard on, look no further than BlueChew. JR and I know this is the real deal. Can't recommend it enough. It's a product we both use in our real life, and you will too, once you understand that it's a unique online service that delivers you the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. And the process is really simple. You sign up at BlueChew.com, you consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And here's the best part, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. You see, BlueChew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door, all in a discreet package. But there won't be anything discreet about your package. Check it out, boys and girls. BlueChew wants to help you have better sex, so discover your options at BlueChew.com. Chew it and do it. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try BlueChew free when you use our promo code JR at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com. The promo code JR will help you receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we want to thank BlueChew for sponsoring today's podcast. And I also want to mention that we're also really proud to bring you an important note from our friends at AG1. Athletic Greens has been a part of our program for a long, long time, and it's actually been a part of mine and my wife's daily household routine since before the pandemic. And she's been on the AG1 train for a long, long time, and that's because it really, really works. She starts every single day with one delicious scoop of AG1, and then she's off to the gym. She tells me she feels more productive than ever when she uses AG1, and on the off chance we travel and she forgot to take a travel pack, she can tell a difference. It's not just a different environment, she feels different. And I do too on the off chance where I miss a day. I find myself late in the afternoon saying, hey, I need a nap. That never happens when I take AG1. I don't feel like I get that afternoon crash. I have more focus. I have more clarity. My wife says she has more strength. We both agree we have more energy. No matter what you're looking for, AG1's for you, man. If you want better gut health, if you want a boost in energy, if you want some immune system support, maybe you hate taking pills and vitamins and you just want a supplement that tastes great, well, AG1 checks all the boxes. Think of it as like a foundational nutritional supplement. It's going to complement comprehensive whole body health. It will replace your multivitamin and your probiotic and everything else in one simple, drinkable habit. Think of it as a micro habit with macro benefits. It really is a science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotics, and whole food sourced ingredients. In fact, there's 75 high-quality vitamins, probiotics, and ingredients. 75. And don't just take our word for it, man. These cats have thousands of 5-star reviews, and we want you to try it. If you're looking for a simpler, more effective investment for your health, try AG1 and get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. Go right now to drinkag1.com/JR. That's drinkag1.com/JR. Check it out. You'll be glad you did.
Absolutely, man. It works. It works, folks. And in several different ways it works. So Conrad's got it down. He's got the great information. He's a user, a regular user. I just think it's amazing, quite frankly, and how much exposure and publicity this company is earning because their product works.
Yes.
So you guys give it a shot. drinkag1.com/JR. It's a great time to try it. So why wouldn't you try it? Tell me why you wouldn't try it. Come on, speak up. So anyway, ag1.com/JR. That's all you need to know.
It's the real deal. Let's talk about SummerSlam. You know, we talked about this event being, this symposium was the night before SummerSlam. Did you attend the event, or was that not the prudent thing to do at the time?
You know what? I'm trying to remember. I don't think I attended the event. I think I slinked away, tried to get out of sight. I don't remember even being there. I don't remember what the main event. I can't remember the main event. It's a long time ago, but nonetheless, I don't think that I went to the event.
Is Stephanie the person who quote unquote confronts you because she was on site, or do you hear from the old man, or what is that protocol the day of the symposium?
I think everybody got a little something, little ass chewing, you know, and they were disappointed in me.
Right.
And I was disappointed in me. I mean, what are you going to do? But try to do better the next time. And of course, in my situation, would there be a next time? So it was a tough day at the office, Conrad, to say the very least. It just was hard to, and I didn't feel like I deserved to be at SummerSlam after my performance the night before.
Well, let's talk about it. I think it was maybe blown out of proportion a little bit, but it took like a whole month before you actually get to sit down with the chairman of the board. And you wrote about that in your book. On September 10th, 2013, Vince's assistant called me and said the boss wanted to meet me in his office. I knew there and then what was going to happen. What do you think he wants? Jan asked me. He's going to fire me, I said. No, she replied. He wouldn't, would he? I chuckled. She'd seen Vince fire me plenty of times. So I went to Stanford. I entered Vince's office like I'd done a million times before, and I read the room before he even opened his mouth. I know you're going to fire me, so could you get it over with so I can make my flight back home, I said.
What a wise ass.
Vince was a little taken back by my straightforwardness. I guess I was too. I'm disappointed in you, JR. I wanted to be defiant, but the truth was I was disappointed in myself too. I was embarrassed by what I heard, Vince continued. What were you thinking going up there drunk? Drunk, I said. Were you not? He asked. Absolutely not. I had one drink that I didn't even finish. All the other stuff, the off the cuff remarks, the unprofessional behavior, all of it is true. I take full responsibility for my part in that. But me being drunk is not true at all. I was counting on you, Vince said. Is this what you are now? Unreliable. Vince knew my first point in picking talent was their reliability, so his words stung, as I'm sure they were meant to. But the boss was right. This was out of character for me, and I had let him down. I also knew that I hadn't done my career any favors. Anyone who was in Vince's ear about moving me on now had the perfect cover story. Is that what you felt, Jim, that this was a way to get rid of you? Like certain people were looking for a reason and you sort of played into their hand with this?
I think I did. I think I helped them out a little bit on that deal. That was an interesting meeting, to say the least. And I was prepared for it. And I think Vince, even though I came off as a little defiant, I think that's kind of what he expected. That's a relationship that we had built. And I didn't want to waste his time with some long story of excuses. You notice there wasn't any excuses there. I screwed up. but the thing about that I was hell bent on standing on was I was not drunk.
Right.
So, but I don't know if you ever believe me, quite frankly. But that was a true story. I had one cocktail, and I didn't even finish it. So, but still, the end result was negative, and that's what I regret still to this very day. I wish it had ended better. But it was. I look in the mirror, man. It's my fault. My fault. So, a lot of guys don't want to take responsibility for their actions. I got no problem with that. I think that was part of my talent relations training. You know, you just can't. You can't go there. You can't do it. So, but it was a meeting that I knew was going to happen. It came a little bit later than I perceived it might, and off we go. So what was next? I didn't really know.
Jim, I want to talk more about the meeting, but before I do, you've said it a few times, and I can't help but ask myself, what could you have done differently? Let's table did Jim have a drink or not? But I'm saying when you're up there and everyone has a mic in their hand, it's not as if you're calling on people and mics are turned on or off. And anytime Rick or anyone else could just pick their microphone up, hold it to their mouth, and here come the words. You can't control that. With the benefit of hindsight, you said, hey, I wish I would have done a better job. What could you have done differently?
Well, I tried not to be a comedian. Tried just to get past these rough spots. You know, Rick was having a bad day.
Yes.
He wasn't the only one. But he had the best excuse, I guess, if you want to say excuse.
Yes.
His son, overdosing and dying. And anybody that's followed Rick's career knows that, Reed was the apple of Rick's eye.
Absolutely.
And, without a doubt. So when you lose that, it's hard to get back on your feet. The more Nate's talk, the bigger hole we all seem to dig ourselves. But I don't blame him whatsoever. I don't know how he could have reacted any differently based on the circumstances of going into the event. So, and while he was on that panel, I'm not real sure. But we didn't all think it through.
Right.
It wasn't thought through well enough. And that's sad. It didn't have to be like it was. But again, none of us were really prepared. We were kind of flying by the seat of our pants. And, Rick is such a strong personality that he stands out when these things happen.
Oh, yeah.
He steals the scene. He's star of the show. And I don't say that in a catty or a wise ass way. It's just he's that big a personality. He's Ric Flair, for God's sakes. So, but it was hard. It was a little daunting, to say the least. More than a little daunting. It was just unfortunate, unacceptable. And again, I can't do anything more than apologize for my performance, but it sure as hell wasn't because I was drunk. I battled that one.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Some people still believe that to be true. It was true. And it is true. But, I don't know, man. It's just nothing seemed to want to go right that day.
Let me ask, you said a minute ago, or I sort of freestyled, do you think this was the excuse that certain folks were looking for to get rid of you? And you didn't necessarily refute that idea. And I understand if you'd rather not, and we can move on. But who do you think was angling for, let's get JR off TV and out of our hair? Is that a Johnny Ace thing? Is that a Stephanie thing? Is that a Kevin Dunn thing? Who are we talking about?
Well, I don't think it's Johnny Ace thing at all, because that would not be accurate in my view. It was Vince had the idea to replace me.
Okay.
And just he wanted to do it under his terms, right place, right time, so to speak. Stephanie was involved in it, as she should have been and was. Kevin Dunn was a big proponent, or Kevin was a big ally and one of the MVPs of that whole company.
Sure.
And a lot of the success that WWE has experienced was thanks to the efforts of Kevin Dunn. So, and his job as executive producer was to make sure we've got the right lineup of talents and everybody's doing their job and so forth. So, I don't know how to say it any clearer. There was several people that probably would have. I was independent. I ran my department. I knew my role, as Dwayne Johnson would say. I knew my role, and but I didn't live up to it on that day, and that's very disappointing to me. For Vince to say to me, "Is this where we are?" That you used to hang your hat on reliability for talents and so forth. Now what? Is this where we are, JR? Is this it? No, I haven't changed my philosophy on being reliable.
Right.
I just didn't do a very good job of being reliable on that day. And the more I talked, the more I buried myself.
So how do you leave it? Does he say we're going to call this a retirement and end our business here? Or what does the end of that conversation look like?
Kind of that way. I don't remember all the exact wording of it, Conrad, but I don't. I think that we pretty well come to our conclusion that our run was over.
Right.
My run was over, and because of this symposium. So, I don't know. It's just very frustrating to this very day because this is a topic that I haven't spent any time reliving. Why would I want to relive it?
That's right.
I don't give a shit about rumor and innuendo whatsoever. It doesn't matter to me because that's just the pro wrestling business, and it's not a great side. It's an underbelly, in my view. So I don't know. This is a topic that I'm uncomfortable with, and it's a topic that I am certainly not proud of how it all worked out. It cost me my career there at that point in time, and that's a pretty heavy price to pay.
When you walk out of the doors there, I assume you think, at least in the moment, well, this is it. This is the last time I'll be here. This is the end of my WWE career.
Right.
How quickly on the way back to the airport are you on the horn with Jan, giving her the lowdown?
Well, I owed it to her to tell her the truth and tell her in a timely way what's going on.
Yes.
She was my partner. She's my best friend. She was my partner, and she needed to know what's going on. And I had to start thinking ahead. What am I going to do now? Type thing. So, but right away we talked and communicated. But that was the secret to our relationship all those years. We were honest with each other, and we talked to each other. And she stood right beside me. She didn't try to say, well, you shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't have done that. You screwed up again. Nothing. She just showed me love and patience. And at that point in time, I needed that. I needed some patience. I needed that hot tag. And I always could depend on Jan to be honest and to be caring. And so it was just hard, you're at a certain age where, you got to figure out, okay, what's next, JR? And I wouldn't, financially we were okay, but it just was all this whole scenario leading up to this stuff. I thought about things walking into Vince's office for that meeting today more than I have ever in my life. So the folks that are watching this today are getting a true version of how I felt and what I did and taking ownership of a negative situation. So, but it's not something I spent any time dwelling on. I just, because it's just a negative.
Yeah.
I want to get rid of it. I want to get rid of the negative. So, and I never really thought I was going to have any issues finding work. So,
no, come on.
yeah, it's going to all be okay.
The Observer would report the decision to have it announced as Ross's retirement allowed him to leave with dignity when the announcement was made that he was leaving to pursue other business endeavors. In addition, from a company standpoint, it allowed the company to avoid a fan backlash, as Ross is a popular character, particularly since most in wrestling were shocked at the reasons he was fired. And Dave would even have your back and say that the afternoon of this symposium, you and Jerry Lawler had announced the Legends roster for the WrestleMania mode of the performers in the game. And you did it outside under the sun in August in LA. And that led to a lot of people saying, hey man, you got a guy who's got Bell's palsy out performing in the sun, and then you're going to ask him to do something later in the night. He's going to wear out on you. He's going to get tired, and that will affect his speech patterns and things like that. And I can't help but wonder, do you think if you hadn't have done both events that this could have ended any differently?
Hard to say, Conrad. Hard to say. I think that I said earlier, the old country expression, hay was in the barn.
Yes.
We were already done. It was a done deal. And I did, Lawler and I did our little thing, and that was easy and sober, as if that was an issue. So, and I thought it was kind of appropriate too. This is going to be one of my last gigs to be able to do it with Jerry.
Yes.
I thought that was kind of neat. So it still meant something to me and still does to this very day.
What's interesting is after the symposium, but before you sit down with Vince, they send you over to the UK to do some PR work. And, you know, if you were really in hot water, would they have sent you there? And it's also interesting that the same day of your firing, September 10th, when you sit down with Vince, that's when someone from the book department in WWE calls and lets the author know, hey, you're going to be working on JR's autobiography. Wait a minute. What? This is a classic case of the left hand not knowing what the right hand was doing. Maybe only Vince knew, but clearly there was a lack of communication there. And speaking of communication, Meltzer would freestyle that when your retirement is announced, there's an eerie lack of comments from performers. Normally, like when a guy like Rob Naylor, who had worked in developmental, when he was let go, there was an outpouring of support from performers online, but there's not here for yours. And that leads to a lot of speculation that perhaps WWE put a statement out saying, don't address it. We do get statements, or tweets rather, from Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, and Triple H, all congratulating you on your retirement. And Meltzer would say, many who knew the background saw those tweets, and Vince's in particular took it negatively, given at the end of the day, the decision was made by Vince and nobody else. But that's how things work in the business world with any well-known employee in a major company when a change has been made. The vast majority of football legends announcing their retirement are actually teams telling the players that their days are over, and then allowing the player the dignity to make it appear as if it was their decision. Do you think some folks in talent relations wanted to get in front of this and ask the talent not to comment for whatever reason?
They might have. I don't know that to be official, but they might have. It's possible. Lay low.
Yeah.
Don't say nothing. Don't get your hands dirty in it. You know, don't sling any shit. Be smart. And that's what I'd have told the talent. Just be very reserved in your comments. There's no reason to put yourself in jeopardy over this deal. And, but I had plenty of talents talk to me privately, and I respected that and I appreciated it, quite frankly. So there was feedback, but it didn't go public, and I didn't make it public.
Not too long after this, you appeared on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani. You're going to talk about the retirement being your decision, and this is going to allow you to do other projects that you're interested in, working in football and MMA and doing some writing and spending time with the grandkids. And you're even going to talk about working at the talent relations level or broadcasting for UFC. You refuse to say anything negative about WWE or your departure, but you're very complimentary to Mark Ratner and Dana White and all those guys. And of course, we know it all worked out. And in fact, WWE would continue to sell your barbecue sauce on the website.
Right.
They're not shying away from that. And Vince even addressed the situation in Stone Cold's podcast, which appeared on the WWE network, where he says that ultimately it was Ross's decision to leave WWE as he wanted to spend more time at home rather than working with WWE, and that there was no heat between the parties. When you saw that on the network, what'd you think?
Well, I was surprised a little bit. There was heat, and Vince knew there was heat just because of the situation. You know, I had become a very integral part of the management team in WWE.
Yes.
That talent roster that we built wasn't done by accident. We didn't back into success. We prepared for success. And I think that you look at that roster and the talents that we brought in to give them a jersey and to play on the team, you know, it speaks for itself. Look at all the millionaires, the Hall of Famers that our talent relations department produced. It's astonishing. And so I think that never had been forgotten. I know Vince was, always admired my talent acumen, my judgment on certain talents. You know, when I signed John Cena, Vince never even heard of John Cena. He never saw him. He didn't know who he was. He didn't know what he looked like. And so that stuff like that, you know, he trusted me. And I think that I hurt his feelings, and I let him down. And it's certainly not something I wanted to do, but it worked out that way. And but the proof is in the pudding. Just go back and look at the roster. Go back and look at all these Hall of Fame ceremonies, and see how many guys that were acknowledged because of being recruited by our group and signing, getting them trained, and getting them involved. So it was a interesting thing. I was talking to I can't remember how long, but it's been a while. But Becky Lynch said, you know, I was definitely involved in her advancement in the company because I talked to her, I acknowledged her, I encouraged her. But there are a lot of them like that I don't, you know, you know about my relationship with Austin, still is to this very day. So, but there were just so many others. So my fingerprints are still on this roster to some degree. And for that, I'm very proud and very grateful.
Meltzer would say that it appeared to be your last big deal with WWE was brokering the deal with the NFL Players Association. The NFLPA will steer players cut from NFL rosters who are moving on from football and have an interest in pro wrestling with a direct line to WWE and tryouts in Orlando. Quote, one person formerly in the top inner circle said there's always been an issue with Ross and Vince because Ross speaks his mind to Vince whenever he thinks a direction is wrong. He tries to be political about it and not confrontational, but Vince is used to people not questioning him. While Vince will outwardly say he likes when people challenge him, nobody does that because of the feeling that it won't end well and that Vince doesn't really like that. And those who do it last a lot less time in the company than those who don't. And I find that comment fascinating because he's basically saying, or what's written here in the Observer is, you were one of the few guys who was willing to tell Vince the truth, and maybe Vince didn't always want to hear the truth. Does that sound about right?
That's possible. You know, Cowboys the same way. You know, everybody I ever worked for, I was just trying to be honest and upfront. I said this on the show on many occasions, that when you are dealing with Vince McMahon, you don't confront him. You converse with him. And so when he and I were alone, we had some extremely open and honest conversations. And I always had a reason for my philosophy or my decision, or this guy's got something that we're not seeing right now, but he's got something, that type thing. So that was always my philosophy with him. You know, I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm just being really naive, but I believe he liked the honesty.
Right.
Because I did it in a closed environment that would not compromise Vince's position as the lead mule. So it was hard to explain that to some people, because they just didn't believe that he was going to allow somebody like me to have such an influence on the structure of that all important department. There's nothing more important. You know, Vince has said it many times. He said it in meetings with Kevin Dunn and I. There's nothing more important than talent and television. And so Kevin was in charge of television, and I was in charge of the talent, and that led to some interesting conversations. But like I said earlier, you know, Kevin Dunn doesn't get the credit that he deserves, I don't think, for his contributions in the company and where the company's gone and grown. And now we know, you know what everybody's making, and you know how their stocks or their options and all that stuff, how that's all evolving. So I just believe that Vince liked honesty, and I just couldn't see in my mind's eye why you wouldn't like honesty, as long as you presented it in a business-like environment. And that's what I always try to do.
Let's do a few questions, then we'll put a bow on this one. Michael Double M says, what would a JR retirement from WWE have looked like in JR's perspective if a proper retirement was given? So if you could, you know, book your own retirement, if you will, a dream scenario for JR retiring with WWE, it probably wouldn't end in the chairman's office. It would happen on television. What would that look like?
Oh, a WrestleMania main event assignment, you know, going to WrestleMania and calling the match. That was the headline match would have been my way out, best way out. Go do your thing, kick ass as best you can, bring your whole kit and caboodle with you, and then walk away. So that would have been probably my ideal way out, was to do a WrestleMania and say thank you very much for all the years, and keep watching wrestling.
David Medina says, if you were currently in WWE, who would you like to call matches with the most out of the current commentators? Do you really admire somebody over there's game right now? If you got to do one last match, that retirement match, who would you want to do it with?
Well, obviously Lawler, if he's healthy, would be the best. You know, I would like to work. Michael Cole right now is doing a great job, and it's really upped his game, which I'm really happy for him for. He's always been a friend and a good guy. And I helped him early on in his career as well, because I got sick and he had to get put into action, and I helped him, which I was happy to do, because I like being around him, and he was a good dude, and still is. But probably Lawler, if he was healthy, would be my choice. And I think would be the choice of most of the fans, would say getting JR and the King together one last time. If it's just for one match, it's a good maneuver. It's a good way to step away. So that's how I would have gone out in a perfect world, calling the WrestleMania main event, the last match, and call it a day.
Raphael says, how did your experience in 2013 shape your perspective on the wrestling business? And did it influence your approach to your career in subsequent years?
I didn't really change, Conrad. I mean, it's all about reliability, and ironic as that may sound after what we discussed here today. But yeah, I just this whole thing has got me perplexed, this topic today, and I'm glad we're getting some questions. It helps a little bit, because I'm thinking about things that I hadn't thought about in forever, and for my own personal health, my own mental health. So, but I don't think my philosophy really has ever changed, even this very day. You know, I'm a big believer in hard work. I'm a big believer in talents that work smart and work hard. They stay in shape. They stay prepared. They're loyal to the company. You know, that's one of the beautiful things about Tony Khan's organization, is that these guys that are in an AEW roster, on the AEW roster, are very, very loyal to the company, and for that I admire, and I sincerely appreciate. It's fun going to work it makes my Saturday nights, even though I'm missing some football games, so what? It makes going to work a lot more fun. Saturday nights is a special night to watch pro wrestling. And I'm glad I'm getting to be a little part of it with Kevin Kelly and Nigel McGuinness.
One last one. Barry Moore wants to know, do you still consider Vince a friend?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Vince did a lot of great things for me. And he was very pro family. He and Shan had a good relationship. She went to the gym every day. So if you go to the gym in Titan Towers every day, you're bound to see Vince at some point in time. So I don't know where I was on that, but it was just there's so many facets to this whole conversation. We could have this conversation again in a month, and I might have a little different philosophy on certain things now that I'm thinking about it. But Vince is a friend. And you can't not consider a guy a friend. He made me a lot of money, Conrad. When I left, I was set. I had stock, I had options. I didn't even understand a lot of it. But I got versed on it for sure. But no, he's still a friend in that regard. I wish you nothing but the best. And, you look at his success story, it's nothing short of astonishing. What he paid for his company, and $1 million back in the day to what it's worth now is scary. So I'm proud for him, and I'd like to. I don't know if he considers me a friend. I don't know. We don't talk, but I certainly consider him a friend and a man that I have great respect for.
Jim Pazinski, who's a part of our live studio audience from adfreeshows.com. He had a similar question. This one about Ric Flair though. He says, how did the fallout from the WrestleMania panel impact your personal relationship with Flair in the long term and the short term? I think most folks remember, but as a reminder, WWE did encourage and were successful in getting Flair into a alcohol rehab program on the other side of this event. And, certainly he finished 2013 on a high note. But how did that affect your relationship with Rick in the short term or long term?
Probably a little strained. I'm sure you've heard, Rick said some things about me and regarding me that probably surprised me. And it was heartbreaking in a way, because we had such a wonderful relationship for all these years. We don't have that today. And I wish we did. But it's not because I refuse to compromise or to, let him back in or me back into his life or whatever. But I wish it was back in the old days when we were running together and having fun and all that stuff. So, but I would say the best way to determine it, or just to describe it rather, is that it was a little bit disconnected. It's unfortunate. I miss those talks, miss the laughs, miss the cocktails.
Well, something you don't have to miss is JR's barbecue sauce. It's jrsbbq.com. They got something for everybody over there, including action figures and trading cards. But my favorite is the all-purpose seasoning. Of course, there's 2 different types of barbecue sauce. I just saw a tweet yesterday about how everybody's loving the Chipotle ketchup. How about the main event mustard? Something for everybody, including now the brand new JR's Red Ass Hot Sauce. What's going on over at jrsbbq.com these days, Jim?
Well, we got a lot of things going on, Conrad. We're signing a lot of stuff. We've got different little premiums, little gifts and things like that. Signed a bunch of the action figures, which is kind of neat. But it's just the great thing about barbecue sauce and the product category is that it doesn't go out of style. So it's really good. So I'm really happy where we are. Really, it's growing and it's good.
Well, we want you to check it out, jrsbbq.com. Of course, you can also get some new swag at grillingjrtees.com. You can also support us over on YouTube at grillingjr on youtube.com. And we'd love to have your questions for next week here on the program. We're going to be talking about Kane. And the best way to ask those questions is JR Grilling on Twitter and Instagram, Grilling JR over on Facebook. And of course, if your business targets men 25 to 54 years old, no better place to advertise than right here with us and ADVERTISEWITHJR.com. Jim, I never know what to expect when we sit down and click record, but this was a challenging topic, but man, we got to the bottom of a lot of rumor and innuendo. And I, for one, hope that we get to see a proper JR retirement. But I know that won't be anytime soon because this weekend, Collision and Wrestle Dream. You can see JR at both of those. Of course, tune in to your Turner station or on pay-per-view on Sunday. And of course, join him live, man. See the man himself in real life, AEWTIX.com. I appreciate you being a good sport today, Jim. I know this wasn't always an easy topic to discuss, but man, I'm happy that the JR story has a much happier ending lined up.
Yeah. I'm very blessed, Connie. You know, Tony Khan has answered a lot of my prayers, and I hope to continue working for AEW for the foreseeable future. That's our goal. That's Tony's goal. It's my goal. Tony and I had a nice chat about my contract last week at TV. So things are moving along well in that regard. You know, I'm sure that between Barry Bloom, my agent, and the legal department at AEW, that they're going to get something worked out. That's my belief. I'm being positive and optimistic. So this is the best scenario for me that I could imagine. Working for a young company, or when you go to work, you feel invigorated, you feel excited. You're around a lot of great young talent that want to be stars. And this group of talents, boy, they work their ass off. Some of the matches we've had on Collision in the last few weeks have just been epic, in my view. Hard-hitting, epic matches that I just can't get enough of. So the only thing I'd like to do more of, call more than just the main event, but that's not my call. I'm running the plays, baby. Just put me in the game, coach. I'm ready to roll. So I appreciate all that. And like I said, Tony Khan has been a blessing to me, providing me an opportunity to work in the business that I love, that I still love. So better days, more good days are lie ahead, Conrad. Life is good. Life is really good.
Well, it's going to be good next week when we talk about our friend Kane right here on Grilling JR with the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross.
We'll see you in Seattle, everybody. Hope you turn out and join us, AEWTIX.com. It's going to be a hell of a wrestling weekend. I think you're really going to enjoy it. So we appreciate you tuning in and supporting what we do here on Grilling JR. And Conrad, thank you so much for all your efforts. You're the podfather for a good reason.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm looking forward to a big weekend. Boomer Sooner, Roll Tide, and we'll see you at Wrestle Dream. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson here to tell you a little more about what adfreeshows.com is all about. Get early, ad-free access to more than a dozen of your favorite wrestling podcasts every single week, starting at just $9. That's less than 20 cents an episode each month. And yes, you can listen to them all directly through Apple Podcasts or your regular podcast apps. How easy is that? Ad-free shows also has thousands of hours worth of bonus content and docuseries like Title Chase, Eric Fires Back, Conversations with Conrad, and The Insiders. Plus new series like The Book with David Crockett, Monday Mailbags with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, and a whole lot more. And you want to talk about early? You can't get any earlier than listening to the shows live. You can be a part of the live studio audience as we record the podcast. Plus, ride shotgun alongside your favorite childhood heroes for live watch-alongs, Q&As, and other interactive experiences every single month. Come on now, see for yourself what thousands of other wrestling fans from around the world have discovered, that adfreeshows.com is the best value in wrestling. Check it out today, and hey, when you do, the first week is completely free. adfreeshows.com.